Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your services. How are you all? I hope you're all doing very, very well. Now today, it's actually sunny. It's sunny. It's not warm, but it's sunny. And it has been raining, but the rain is now passed over. Now yesterday was a vastly different day, meteorologically speaking. If you looked at it officially, it was like 8 or 9 degrees, which isn't that bad for the sort of middle of January. Possibly balmy, in fact. But there was a vicious wind sweeping in, coming down from the northeast, hitting Scotland, hitting Northern England, hitting here, hitting Ireland. My God, that made the actual temperature, physically, when you were out in it, sub-zero. But you know what? I woke up yesterday morning, after being out the night before, as is usual. And I thought, I want to blow away the cobwebs. I'm going to go out on a big mad walk, a big mad trek. That's what I'm going to do. Mrs. Kilt-Man went, you mean as far as the Cask or the Telegraph pub? Some trek that's going to be. No, I said, I'm going to put my M65 combat jacket on. I'm going to get all my kit and caboodle. I'm going to wrap it up, roll it over my shoulder, and I'm going to go off down a long road. And hopefully not incur the wrath of any overzealous local gendarmerie with a chip on their shoulder. No, so I took off. I put this on. I didn't carry a kit bag with me or nothing like that. And I didn't have the knife with me either, because that would not have been a good idea. And I did quite a arduous and long circuitous route of the northern tip of the Wirral Peninsula, where I live. And so I took off from here, from the mansion. I went down that way. I went all the way down to Seacombe. There's a ferry there to take you across the Mersey to Liverpool. I didn't do that. I then took another angle and walked all the way back down what's called Poulton Road, all the way back into Wallasey Village where I was born and where my mum sadly used to live and no longer. Called in at the old house, made sure everything was okay, did all that, then carried on walking all the way down Liso Road, which is about 2.5 miles long, and then got to Liso Lighthouse down there, and then did a vault face and came back along the coast all the way back to New Brighton, where I have to admit, I was so cold. And I've been out in very, very cold weather beforehand, but I'm not used to it these days. And whoa, Jesus. And I'm not ashamed to admit that I've probably done, if you toss it all, I've probably done about 16 miles. Not a great deal, I know, but it was still a bit of a yomp. And I suddenly realised, no, I've gone numb. My fingers are numb, my nose is numb, my bum is numb. And I'm in the kilt, obviously. The wind was howling. Now down the front, what you find normally is that you're sheltered. Because we here are in the leeward side of the Welsh mountains. But in the last few years, that has not prevented us from getting the onslaughts of many, many serious storms. We've had no protection at all. Now normally, where I am sitting right now in Kilt Mansion, we're at the top, we're at the highest point in Wallasey. This is the high point here. I mean, it's not just this house. There's plenty of houses in this area, this vicinity, which are on the highest point. But that's our little environment. So we're overlooking everything. Behind you guys is Liverpool. That way is Ireland. That way is Wales. And from our roof, you can see all of that. So it's quite a strategic vantage point. But normally, when it's cold everywhere else and windy everywhere else, when you're walking along the front, the prom, and you're turning into where the River Mersey is, you're going alongside that, you are sheltered. You don't get the brunt of the really bad weather. Oh, contraire, because yesterday, everything conspired against me weather-wise. Whoa, it was absolutely raw. In a way, it was great, because it's what I wanted. Because I woke up that morning and thought, I want to go out, I want to feel the elements, but I want to get dressed up and wrapped up and just trudge. That's dredging and drudging. Drudging and trudging through it. Whatever I was doing it yesterday. And I had to throw the towel in because I was going to go all the way along, way past Vale Park and then swing round again and come back to the local boozer before coming home. But I had to throw the towel in and make the steady climb uphill to the local boozer to try to get some respite. Respite from the frostbite. Jesus, what a day. But all the while, in my ears, I was playing the music of Johnny Rambo. Jerry Goldsmith, his score for First Blood, his score for First Blood Part 2, and his score for Rambo 3. I left off at that point. So it's a big mega mix of all of those scores, but mainly First Blood was just rocketing round. It's a long road. And of course, you're hearing that now, the main theme, it's a long road. But walking along Poulton Road, in fact, most of the road, Lisa Road as well, and then coming up to Prom, they're all very long roads. So it was easy, with your hands thrust in your pockets, trudging along, your collars turned up, to put yourself in his combat boots. And it was great, I loved it. And it got me thinking about what the hell happened to the Rambo story that we haven't yet got, where he goes out chasing a military experiment gone wrong. Yes, you heard this right. In a sort of predator/werewolf type creature, which has broken out of a secure facility, and a new team are being put together to try to track this thing down. The best special forces operatives in the world. And of course, you want the real best, it's got to be John Jay. And so they bring him out of retirement, they find him, bring him out of retirement, and send him on this mission. Now, I have discussed this before, because this was going to be called Rambo 4. I think it was the Rambo 4. Rambo 4, The Hunter, or The Hunted, something like that. I mean, I can't remember all the details now, but because it never happened. And then, again, it got mooted at the time of, like, Rambo Last Blood. Oh, it's going to be this. It's going to be hunting down that crazy monster type thing, which is indestructible. Only Rambo can take it down. And it would have been Sly's version of Arnie facing off against the Predator, which is a marvellous idea. Who out there wouldn't want to see that? Rambo going against some kind of ferocious, almost, titanium-plated werewolf type creature. Come on now. And that would have been his swan song. But then we got Last Blood, where he's taken out a Mexican cartel. Oh, dear God. And I've said my piece on that movie. I can't stand it, and I think it's wretched. I think it's god awful, and I wish he hadn't done it. You've got like 10 minutes of video nasty at the end, but that doesn't make up for all the tedium and boredom beforehand, and it's not a fitting conclusion. Personally, I wanted to see Rambo out in the wild, escape an evasion, like he's done through all the other movies, setting traps. I know Last Blood had a lot of traps in it, but he lured everybody in, and his own ranch was the battlefield. We wanted chase sequences. You don't get any of that. You don't get him on the run, leaving traps for people pursuing him, using stealth and camouflage. But this movie, The Hunted, The Hunter, whatever it was going to be called, that would have provided ample opportunity. Plus, an environment we haven't seen him in before, because it was going to be set up in Alaska. Oh yes, that was the idea, Alaska. So you'd have seen him in snow camouflage and using the environment there, using the snow. We've seen him in the jungle, we've seen him in the desert, you've seen him in the mountains, of First Blood. And like, somewhere out there, possibly up above the snow line, the fugitive John Rambo is at large. Yeah, you do see a little bit of snow, and it's definitely cold, but you don't really see him in that Arctic kind of environment, which I think is the one thing missing from his cinematic resume. He's a Green Beret. Green Berets do train. They train in Colorado twice a year for mountain warfare. And they often go up to Alaska for a good long phase with other military wings and to work with the local Indians and the local communities to try to learn their techniques on how they survive in Arctic conditions, and using their guerrilla tactics of surveillance and pursuit and evasion, hunting, trapping, and the ancient warfare skills of Native Americans. Special forces all do that. And we know that Rambo himself is, well, in Rambo First Blood Part 2, Murdoch does say of Indian and German descent. It's a hell of a combination. In the novelisation by David Morrell, we find out his father's actually Italian, but his mother is a Navajo Indian. So we know that he's got that affinity with sort of native tribalism and how to track and how to use the weather and the environment to his own advantage, how to live off the land, to eat things that make a billy go puke, to kill, period. And so we know he's got that affinity. I mean, I've always found it a bit weird that as the movies progressed, after First Blood he's been in prison, and he goes to Vietnam again, but he hasn't lost any of his skills, but he seems to know how to use modern for its time, 85, technology, great, camera systems, newfangled SMGs. You know, he's still got all of that going on. When did he learn any of that? When he was inside? You know, there was no other training program for him to go on. He's been wandering North America since coming home from Vietnam. But that sort of guy would try to keep abreast of things. Plus, he's got the aptitude, the initiative, and the initial knowledge and confidence in his own abilities to pick up new skills along the way. So then, after First Blood Part 2, he wanders around Southeast Asia, learns a thing or two from the Buddhist monks, does some stick fighting, but he must be picking up other skills as well. He's a warrior. He is made for war, you know. I don't want it. I never asked for it, you know. Well, that's just too bad. We didn't make you this super warrior. We just chipped away the rough pieces. Whatever it is. You know what I'm saying. But Rambo is God's gift to warfare. That's the way you got to look at it. So he would always pick up stuff wherever he's been. New ways of forging his own knives or machetes. New weaponry. He'll pick them up from the black market. He'll learn stuff. It's just in his nature. But the one thing, as I say, we don't see him do is combat sub-zero temperatures up in the Arctic Circle. And that's a missed trick there. I think it'd be great. I know we've had Cliffhanger, so you could always say that, well, Stallone has done that. And Cliffhanger is the ultimate snow and ice action adventure movie. It is. I love it. I've reviewed it, covered it, and I do love the movie. I think it's a great outing for Stallone, and it's just a great action movie in its own right. But we want to see Rambo doing it, though. And as I say, the 10th Special Forces Group, the Green Berets, which he would have been part of, Europe was their main area of designation. But there's mountains and there's very cold areas in Europe, and they do train for it. I know, obviously, the Vietnam era, he's done a couple of tours of Vietnam, so it's all jungle stuff. They would have trained extensively for jungles and for much warmer, more humid climates. But an essential part of Special Forces training is to do Arctic warfare. So I really do wish they'd done this movie. And you keep hearing little snippets pop up again, like, oh, remember Stallone's old idea for Rambo fighting a big werewolf? Well, they're looking into it again. Only you see these little ideas, these little things cropping up, but nothing ever happens with it. I know some people say, like, well, Rambo can't fight a monster. He's fought, you know, small town law. He's fought the National Guard. He's fought the Viet Cong, the NVA, and the Russians, and the Burmese, you know, and the Mexicans. You know, who's left to fight? You know, well, pretty much that is it. You need to have him fighting something he hasn't combated before, and all this team that he's part of are all going to get picked off one by one. And in the end, always it's got to be him going, Mano a Bisto, Rambo a Bisto. I think it would have been great. Yeah, there's a lot of shades of Predator there, but that's a winning formula. You know, you can't beat having a bunch of highly trained operatives who think that they can control any situation, suddenly encountering something that they cannot possibly understand, comprehend, or even defeat. So getting picked off one by one, and only Rambo, even though he'd be grizzled and much older, but he'd be like the old trapper, the old tracker, the old scout that you see in many outdoors movies, bedecked in furs perhaps, you know, and a big mountain man beard. Excuse me. Oh, it's what could have been and what should have been. So I was doing my trek around the wilds of the Whittle Peninsula. And I was thinking about all these ideas and little situations they could find themselves in atop the mountains, you know, in the absolutely freezing Arctic wind, having to come down off the mountains. This thing's hunting them. It's turning the tables on them. They're not hunting it. It's hunting them now. And then it becomes a battle of survival. They just got to try and get out of there. You know, it's just, it screams action, tension, suspense, adventure, and a fair bit of blood and carnage as well. Cheers, y'all. Now, Stallone is riding the crest of the wave again with Tulsa King, which I've seen 2 episodes of, and I do like it. I think it's a good drama, and it's got a good sort of satirical angle. There's a nice little comedic bent to it, and Stallone can do that really well. Stallone can be very, very funny, very cutting, very acerbic, very sardonic. Rocky Balboa had it in spades, with his dumbness. Rambo has it occasionally, but look at Demolition Man. That is, I still, it's one of his finest hours, Demolition Man. It's, in many ways, it's the kind of, it's the Judge Dredd that we should have had, rather than the Judge Dredd that Stallone did give us. I still like his Judge Dredd, I do, but it's not Judge Dredd. It's just Stallone as a futuristic copper. It's not Judge Dredd. Dredd with Carl Urban, that is Judge Dredd, and we need more of that. Come on, make it so. But Stallone is still working. He's still in shape. And I think, is it asking too much that we have Rambo have one final outing? Last Blood was not the farewell, not the salute to a hero that we've loved and cherished and followed for decades now. That was not the right conclusion. It was mean-spirited in the worst possible way. I know all the films are pretty mean-spirited. They're just carnage and body count pictures. But there's humanity there, there's excitement. And the first bunch are very much of their time. Big, broad, one-man army, action adventures. But with Last Blood, everyone gets killed. And they missed a beat. The film would be improved. You're showing off all his horse riding skills. And when you watch the full and cut version, the fuller version, they say that it's not cut because of any violence. There's a couple of scenes have been cut out of it at the start, where he rescues or tries to rescue a family from a flood in the woods, and using his brilliant tactics and his tenacity, but he only manages to save one person. The mum and dad get killed, the daughter survives. But in most versions, that bit isn't even there. It cut it out. God alone knows why. But you see him doing his equestrian skills, which Stallone can do. He can ride a horse and make it trot and prance and dance and spin round and do all that kind of stuff. So what you really needed to improve Last Blood would have been, you got the Mexicans coming up there before the big final battle in the subterranean bunkers that he's built, his tunnels, his VC tunnels, to have a sequence in the woods where he is being chased by them and having to, maybe his horse actually gets killed, it gets shot from under him, but you want to see him riding through and leading them down, Dead Man's Gulch, leading them into traps and ambushes that he's made because he knows that land, whereas they don't. That sequence would have elevated a very lackluster and quite, there's not much action in the movie, is there? There just isn't. The finale, running around and stabbing things through people's heads and people getting scythed up. It's also got that scene where the guy ends up on the spikes and Stallone then fires a load of wasted ammunition into him to kill him. The guy's not going anywhere. He's impaled on a row of spikes. Let him die in agony, slowly. Don't waste your ammo. Where's you thinking, Rambo? You know this stuff. No, it was I can't call it a train wreck, but it's not far off. It's a Rambo wreck. It isn't Rambo. It doesn't have that excitement. It doesn't have that appeal. It doesn't have that zest or energy. It just feels dark, morose, very sad, very tragic, and just very, very nasty and mean-spirited. So, Stallone, if you're watching, please go back to that other script. Work on it. Work your magic on it. Oh dear, I must have caught something yesterday about out in the frozen wastes of Wallasey. Actually, I'm more likely to have caught something when I finally clawed my way into the pub and then thawed out amongst all my friends, laughing and joking and drinking and imbibing. That's where I probably caught something. But come on, Sly. You've still got it in you to do this. You still want to make action movies. You still want to do stuff. Expendables 4. I love Expendables. I think it's a great idea, and I've loved the first 3. The third one isn't so good, but when the action comes in, it actually is good. And it's got Mel Gibson, who's doing a winning turn as a really uber bad guy, and I loved seeing Gibbo in that. But if you're going to do Expendables 4, get on with it. And we already know that you're taking a back seat in it, and you literally are passing the baton on to other team members. You're just going to be in the periphery. At least that's what I've heard. That's fine. Don't get injured. You've had the shit kicked out of you in the first 3 Expendables movies, and you've broken bones in your body that should never be broken. You broke your back. You broke your neck. For fuck's sake, what are you thinking, man? Use a stunt man. You get Tom Cruise. Put Tom Cruise in the same height, for God's sake. Put him in a bodysuit and kick his ass around the place. He doesn't mind. Drop him out of planes. Throw him through a helicopter rotor blade. He doesn't mind. He'll do anything. But please, let's have the proper conclusion to the Rambo saga. It doesn't have to be stratospherically sci-fi and fantasy. It's just an experiment that's gone wrong. We tried to create the ultimate soldier. You might even find it. Oh, here's an idea for you. The twist is, well, how did you create him? Well, we used a combination of DNA from a grizzly bear, from a wolf, from an alligator, and from you, John. What? You mean he's like my brother? Well, folks, you heard it here first. How cool would that be? Do shoot me down if you think that's completely preposterous. But what a way to end it. He's basically ending up fighting himself, a clone of himself, but it's brethren, it's his own blood, his own DNA is in this beast. Come on now. Don't deny it. Don't deny it. There's a spark there, isn't there? See, this is what happens when you're just shooting the breeze, spitballing, brainstorming. Ideas just like synapses just pop. Neurons, neutrons, and other stuff, fizz and give it loads inside your brain, and the imagination kicks in. Yeah. Rambo has to fight himself. Mind you, oh, hang on a minute. Logan, it's been done, hasn't it? God damn it. And that basically is what I've just described. Logan, Wolverine, has to fight a cloned, younger version of himself, but with more aggression. Yeah, but I think we can modify it somewhat. I'm going to work on this. Rambo, the Hunted, written by Kilt-Man. I think there's a lot more ideas here which are coming in. But folks, I'm sure you agree, Rambo, he's not over yet. That Rambo guy, he's on the loose again. Don't you want one last stab, but a proper one with action properly interspersed throughout the plot? Hunting, tracking, scouting, surviving, death count, death piling up. A beast which is hidden perhaps throughout most of it, making lightning fast attacks on the team, leaving everyone stunned and confused. Rambo wanting to go alone because he doesn't know any of these guys. They're not Baker team. And Rambo, we're better alone. We've been told that the mind is the best weapon. Not a snowcat. Folks, there's food for thought there. And this is all inspired by walking in the sub-zero, freezing Arctic winds which buffeted this place yesterday. So, and as it happens, I'm going out again today, but on the other side of the Mersey, and I'm actually going walking again. So, hey, getting older now. Gotta keep the joints moving, haven't you? And obviously keep them lubricated. Can you hear that? Yeah, it's raining again. The sun is out, it's shining, but I turn the camera around, but you won't see it. And because the sunlight's hitting the rain, which is coming down like in sheets, it's like silvery. It's like lit up. It's like firing tracer rounds that actually the whole thing is lit up. It's quite incandescent. Still miserable though. Hate the fucking rain. Folks, there you go. A little chat about Rambo, a little chat about American Green Berets. America and a lot of other countries and that who nudge into the Arctic Circle are doing a lot more training up there now because they know that the threat, a physical threat, could well come from that direction. So Danish commandos, Canadian commandos are all working with American Special Forces up in Alaska. Well, they were back end of last year and they will be again this year as well. So there you go. Rambo, this is Lieutenant Clinton Morgan, National Guard leader. Rambo will be like, oh, fucking hell. Bunch of weekend pussies. Folks, have a think about that. Get your ideas all lined up. Think how Rambo should really have bowed out. Because Last Blood was not the way to have done it. It wasn't. It was a cheapened cop-out. It was just... that. If anything should have been streamed on a platform, that was the one. That should not have had a cinematic release. It didn't feel cinematic at all. Anyway, I have been always Shabby Kilt-Man. Please, in the meantime, in this effort, like, what can we do with John J. Rambo? Make him fight a werewolf. And the twist is at the end, Rambo does survive. He gets picked up, but he's been bitten. And there's a full moon rising. Oh dear God. Hey folks, I'm going to catch you all. Gonna order a chopper in and send you back to Bragg. Later.